Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. I'm Greg Crist, along with Frank Fear. Frank, welcome into the show. And man, a lot of good stuff going on now.
Greg, I was just thinking, and we were talking about it. Can you remember a weekend that was as good as we got last weekend for Mountaineer sports? When you think about it, it covered Thursday through Sunday, and it was just not only wins but thrills and spills.
Yeah,
That overtime game against Stanford. I mean, we were dead in the water. 14 seconds left, down by 4. Lorient hits a driving layup. Then he misses the free throw, so we're down by 2. And to make a long story short, we still win the game in overtime. In fact, tied it at the buzzer, and then really handled Stanford in overtime. And then that baseball game on Saturday, down 10-2 and winning 11-10, and not
yep,
to speak of that Sunday game against Oklahoma when we thought it was over, and then that's why they play the game. It wasn't over.
that's right. And how many times, Frank, have you watched a game and like in basketball, and you see a team that kind of gets a little bit lucky, like we did, and they go on then to win the tournament. And when that happened, I made the comment, that's a good sign. When you pull one out like that, usually good things lie ahead. And they got a little bit lucky, and they played pretty well, and but these were good teams, good competition, and he got down there, and I know, I've looked back, I watched it back a couple of times. I think, a lot of people would say, my gosh, that's Stanford. How could you foul on a 3-point shot in that situation? I don't think he intended to foul him, obviously, in that situation. I think he was trying to foul him, but I think he was trying to foul him before he was able to get a shot attempt up. And he was smart enough to see that he was going to get fouled. So he went for it, and they did foul him, and it was a foul. And we're able to tie it up, and go into overtime, and beat them. The next night against Creighton, man, they looked like a machine. They came out. Defense was tough. Offense was clicking. They were hitting shots, moving the ball well, running the floor well. Just played an all around good game against Creighton. And I even heard comments from some say that they'll be like, well, I'm not going to say his name, but I'll be like somebody else. They were saying that it was one of the best, maybe the best game we played all year. And I can't really question that. They played pretty well. Oklahoma come in with them and played well to start. Hit a little lull there for a while, and then turned it back on. Halfway through the second half, and what a you know, it's just a. I mean, obviously, it's not the NCAA tournament, but it's something positive to hang your hat on. And it was a good competitive tournament. There were good teams in that tournament, and yeah, there were those teams that in the tournament in the CBC were better. All of them were better than a lot of teams that were in the NCAA tournament. And I know a lot of people would argue with me on that, but if you look at the last ones in and those 15, 16 seeds, uh, these 8 teams were better than any of them. And so it was a good competition, and it gives you a good feeling to win something like that. I mean, it's a good positive thing to end the season on. It makes you reinstills a little bit of faith in you for the program, and it was exciting and it was fun to watch. I sat here and watched it with my family, my brothers, and we were hooping and hollering and having a good time and really enjoyed it. Made for a good Easter Sunday. But yeah, it was good. And on top of that, the icing on the cake is they made some pretty good money. So, you know, that's a good thing as well. Like you said too, the baseball games, man. Uh, I thought we were going to pull off a couple of miracles in that. Couldn't quite do it the next game, but good that they could come back and win that game, keep them getting swept in that series. Because again, UCF maybe it's the top team in that Big 12, and we did win one out of the three, and showed everybody, I think, that we're as good as anybody in the Big 12. So good weekend.
Yeah, and we found out later that about half the team was sick with
Yeah,
either a flu or some kind of virus, and but they acquitted themselves well. The season's not over, and we'll talk more about baseball later
yep,
after we get the skinny on the football team from Mark. But
yep,
going back to the basketball team, and when we were watching that, Kathy Fear and I were watching it, it just reminded me of the old bowl games before the national championship in
yeah,
football. They
yeah,
were exciting. People would
fun.
watch. And if you look at the numbers that were reported, more fans watched that game between West Virginia and Oklahoma than watched the Auburn Tulsa final in the NIT. About almost a million people on average.
Yeah,
And at some points in the game, over a million people, like a million three, watched that game, and it was a really exciting game. It's not a game you wanted to turn off because
yep,
you had that great start by West Virginia, then the catch up by Oklahoma, then Oklahoma expanded at the beginning of the second half, went up by 13-14. West Virginia clawed back, should have won it, I think, in regulation with the ball, and then down by 6 in overtime, the game's over, right? No, Oklahoma scored the first 6 points in overtime. That was it. And WVU won it going away. So it was very exciting. And it was great to see Honor Huff go out on a real high. Again, we learned
I was
out.
going to mention that, Frank. Sorry to interrupt you, but I was going to mention him to you and get your thoughts on Hunter Huff and the way he
Yeah,
shot the ball at the beginning of that game. Was that not amazing?
just amazing. And we learned that the Trey was had a turf toe,
Yep,
and I was wondering we didn't see him toward the end of the game, particularly in overtime, and he just had trouble running because those things really hurt.
yep,
But yeah, a great weekend for the Mountaineers. Lost two, as you said, of the three games against UCF, but they're playing Marshall. We'll watch the score tonight, and then they're going down to Texas Tech for the weekend. 3 game series. Still a lot of the season left. They're a very good team.
yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about the stats later, but yeah, great weekend to be a Mountaineer. Period.
Yep. One disappointing note, Frank, on this. I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but the fact we had some players enter the transfer portal in basketball right after that, I was a little disappointed in that because a couple of them are really good players. And but I read, or my son told me, I don't remember, 50% of all the players in the NCAA will be in the transfer portal. That's unreal. 50%. So not surprising that we're going to have some go in. I think what was more, uh, I guess, a positive on that was the ones we kept. There were 4 or 5 that actually
Yeah,
said they were staying, which is a good thing. I mean, if you have 4 or 5 as your foundation, you can build around and build on or replace and have those guys coming off the bench, whatever the case may be. That's a good sign that you got people that are staying. And you hear the kids talking good things about Coach Hodges and how much they like him and all that kind of thing. And I don't know if you watched any of the post game interviews with some of the players. It was really nice to hear some of the things they had to say. So again, it reignites that faith that we have in him and the basketball program. I still think they're in good hands, and I think that I think they're going to be just fine with him. People just leave him alone. Leave him alone. Let him coach.
yeah, and we'll talk about this later, but I'm sure there's no question Coach Hodge will pick up some good players in the portal,
Yep.
and we'll reload. I mean, it'll be the third year in a row where WVU basketball has had to reload. But when you think about it, 19 wins the year before, 21 wins this year, both with reconstructed uh, rosters.
Yep.
Yeah, losing Thomas really hurts. And, Forsyth, the other player we lost in the portal, we never really got to see him play. He only played 20 minutes during the season. He was a
Yep.
4-star. But, like you said, 50% leave. So
Yep. Yeah, yeah, not surprising. And like I said, those guys hurt. But if you think about it, Frank, where'd they come from? We picked them up in the portal. So that's just the nature of the game. That's just the
That's
way
right.
it is today. And I was talking to my son earlier, and he was talking about the long work days they're putting in now, and he said this transfer portal is crazy. And he said, he said I don't pay much attention because that's the way it's been for a while now. But he said it is just wild, and just people going every which direction. And he said that's just the nature of the beast. That's the way the game is today. So it's just something that these coaches, I'm glad I don't have to deal with. Yeah, but they have to adjust to it, and I think with Hodges, he's at an age where he's not so set in his ways that he can't adapt and adjust, his approach, to fit in with the portal. So I'm good with him, and I think Rich Rod's the same way. Rich Rod's going to do what he's got to do to win, and he's already talking about being bigger, faster, and stronger already. So you got to have faith in those guys. Um, Speaking of Rich Rod and the football program, uh, we like to tune in with our good buddy down in Tennessee, who Frank follows this a whole lot closer than you and I are able to follow it. And of course, we're talking about Mark Parsons. Now, Mark had a little video issue down there tonight, so you'll just see his smiling face on the graphic that pops up, but we'll be able to hear him loud and clear. Mark, welcome into the show. Glad to have you. And we're looking forward to hearing more about the Mountaineer football squad.
Glad to be here, guys. I guess I must be ugly because the last couple times I've went on here, the video didn't work. So you guys must not want me on the on the picture part, but that's fine. We can move forward.
Little conspiracy theory going on there now. Mark, I'll just be honest with you. If we had that capability, I guarantee you there's another face that would be blacked out every week. That'd be mine. So yeah, don't think we're conspiring against you. So
uh,
we've been
but yeah, I've kind of prepared some information here. I've been doing a little research, and you just want me to go ahead and get started and
yeah, yeah. If
kind
you
of go
want
with my
to,
spiel.
yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Just go ahead and
Well,
lay it on us.
you know. Regardless of what Coach Rodriguez says, he says he wants to build, from high school talent up. We're in a total rebuild again, fellas. Regardless of how they want to put it in the press. We've got 3 starters returning on offense, 0 returning on defense, and so it's a total rebuild. And it's kind of a mystery as to the depth chart and how things are playing out. There's a few positions that are kind of set, but for the most part, the staff's keeping quiet, and they haven't put out an official depth chart yet. There's a lot of media outlets that have put out what they think the depth chart's going to be, and everybody varies, a little bit differently in that. It's kind of a work in progress because they're experimenting so much. They've got the linemen on the offense. Coach Trickett's got them playing all the positions. He wants to see who plays the best where. And I think they're doing a lot of that with wide receiver in the slot versus the X and the Z as to what who's going to be better at which place. And what I've done is I've kind of looking at about 6 different media outlets. I've kind of came up with kind of a depth chart. But again, this is changed tomorrow, and like I said, about the only true position that's set in stone right now. Cam Cook at running back is going to, I think that's a definite. He's going to be a starter, and probably Bray Wise. I think he's going to be a starter if everything goes with his health and he stays healthy. But as far as the quarterback position goes, it's kind of a toss up right now. Rodriguez has came out this week, said Scotty Fox is doing a lot better. He's made a lot of improvements in his reads on defense, and he's making adjustments. And he says he's playing good, but he did not tip his hat as to he was going to be the man. And then if you see, every other day there's something about Michael Hawkins on there, and a lot of the national media has him already pegged in there as a starter. So we're going to see. I mean, he is an athlete. He has some wheels. He can run the ball, and he's got a good arm. But and they both have experience, playing games. So we're gonna see what happens there. But that one is I think it's down to those two, but it's very unclear as to where they're leaning right now. In regard to running back, as I said, Cam Cook, he's a transfer from Jacksonville State, led the nation in rushing yardage last year, and they've got him pegged in. And every national media outlet out there says he's going to be a difference maker for us as far as a playmaker, as long as he can stay healthy and everything. Now they also say that we have a really talented running back room. Everybody's really high, and the staff's really high on Amari Latimer. He's a freshman from Tyrone, Georgia, originally committed to Wisconsin and flipped. And he's a big back, short yardage guy. He's going to play, and they're already bragging on him. And don't rule out Martavius Boswell. He's a junior out of Fort Worth, Texas, came out of a Mississippi junior college, and he's going to play as well. Actually, Rodriguez said there's 5 guys on there that can play, and none of them have experience at WVU, but Cook does have a lot of game experience. He was at TCU before he went to Jack State, and was very productive at both places. So, that's kind of how the running back shapes up. Fullback, which is something they're going to introduce this year, which we haven't had in a long time, excuse me, is a transfer from Arizona named Caden Luke. He's a junior from Tucson, and he looks rough to touch. He's a big cowboy looking guy, cowboy boots and hat and two in the back and all that. But he's kind of fits the mold of an Owen Schmidt kind of guy, and I think he's kind of hard nosed, and I think we need that. I think our short yardage has suffered for the last several years, especially in the red zone, and I think adding that fullback can be a big difference maker. And if you think back to when Rodriguez was here previously, he had like 4 backs. He had 2 or 3 guys that he could use back there. He had Schmidt, Pat White, Slayton. You didn't know where it was coming from. They'd throw in Renaud with a reverse, and you just never know. And I think they got a 4-headed monster there that really. I hope we can get back to that. I hope these guys are similar to that, and we can incorporate some of that into the offense. Now, as far as the X wide receiver, now keep in mind these wide receiver slots could all change because they're flipping and flopping there. But right now it looks like Prince Strahan, I think is how his last name is pronounced. He's a junior from Fort Pierce, Florida. He's a transfer from Southern Cal. And he looks to be the guy at the X spot. But this week, Tayron Francis, transfer from LSU, he's a New Orleans native. He came in and did some good things this week, and they're high on him. So those guys could flip-flop. They might move one of them to another position. You just don't know what they're going to do. He's going to get the best guys on the field that he has, and I think that's why they're doing all this. Now, as far as the Z, Jaden Bray is a senior in Norman, Oklahoma. He was originally a transfer from Oklahoma State under the Neil Brown regime. He's had a lot of injury problems, but he is talented, and they're high on him. He's not injured right now. He's doing well, so we're going to see how it all plays out. And then there's a guy that you haven't really heard a lot about until this past week. At the second spot at the Z is John Nider. He's a junior from Milford, Connecticut. He's a transfer from Connecticut, and he's got good hands apparently, and he's also a good blocker. So we're going to see how he does it. Right now, everybody has him kind of listed in that second spot there, and at the Z, and as we know, Rodriguez, his wide receivers just don't catch. You have to block in this zone offense. If not, you're not going to play, and so that's a plus. Now at the slot, this is another one that's kind of up in the air, but DJ Epps is a senior from Seal, Alabama. He's a transfer from Troy. They're high on him, and he could also be one of those guys that gets moved to another spot as well, or can play multiple positions. And his backup would be Keon Hutchins, a junior from Union, Mississippi. He's from a junior college in Mississippi. He's the fastest guy on the team, and I think you're going to see he's going to play a lot. I don't know if they could. He's tall too. I don't know if they'll use him in the return game or not. We'll just have to see. I think Epps will get return minutes in the kickoff return, but we'll see on Hutchins. And then Armani Weaver is a freshman from Anderson, South Carolina. He's another one that's been doing pretty well. So there's three options they've got right there at the slot. So I do think at wide receiver we have a lot more depth. We're definitely taller, and so he said in a press conference this week. I mean, I haven't seen any film on it, but they said that they're able to get separation. They think they're going to be able to get separation. That has killed us for the last several years. We just haven't been able to do it, and I think he's finally got some frisbee catching dogs, as they say, where they can go up and get those catches. Now, tight end. There's a lot of varied opinions on this, but right now they seem really high on Ryan Ward. He's a junior from Rutherford, New Jersey. He's a transfer last year from North Carolina. And they say right now he's the leader in the wide receiver room. And backing him up, it appears to be Josh Sapp, a senior from Greenville, South Carolina, who transferred in from Clemson. And now moving on to the offensive line, you got at left tackle. This is one that's I've got him. Everybody has him penciled in as a starter. Nick Cray. He's a junior from Harbor Creek, Pennsylvania, and he started last year and had playing experience the year before. But he's getting pushed by a transfer, Cam Griffin, who's a senior from Pinson, Alabama. He's a transfer from Jacksonville State. And what's unique about him, he can play all five positions on the line. They can use him anywhere. And he'd be a great backup to anybody. But if you're that talented, how are you not going to start him somewhere? So somebody may lose out. I don't know. We're going to have to see. Right now, they still have Nick Cray penciled in there. Left guard, Wes King, a senior from Appleton, Wisconsin. He transferred in from Wyoming. They seem pretty high on him as well. And the backup there again is Cam Griffin. So you see he can move around a lot. And then center, you've got Landon Livingston, a senior from Leo, Indiana. He started the last couple years and or last year and has done real well. And again, his backup is Cam Griffin as well. So you can see he's all over the place as backup. Now, at right guard, you have Amari Grayson, a junior from Stockbridge, Georgia. And then you have Devin Vass as a backup junior from Lakeland, Florida, who transferred in from Kansas State. Now, Amari Grayson was from Jacksonville State. This is one that a lot of people, they have them flip-flopped. It's going to come down to the day before the game, probably that first game before they name a starter, because it's so close right now. But that's kind of it on the offense. Any comments or questions you have on the offense?
I know, listening to Coach Rodriguez press conference the other day, we talked about the receiver room. He said, typically we like to have 6 or 7 that we can count on to go out there and play. And he said, we've got that. He said, we're going to be much better
he does. Yeah.
In that receiver room than we have been.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a lot better at the receiving room. And I think we've got more depth on the O-line, because we've had some injuries, pop up in there. And I think we've got more depth. And it's nice to have that utility guy that can play everything. So we'll see how that plays out as well. Running back, we got a lot of options there too, but I think as long as he's healthy, Cook's going to get the bulk of the carries, I think. I think he might use him, just speculating, like an Avon Coburn type, and lean on him quite a bit.
Yeah, I would say too, Mark, that one of the things that you mentioned early on with the offensive line, and then Greg brought up the wide receiver room, they're taking the same approach to both position rooms, and that is everybody plays every position. It's not locked in.
Right.
They've got to be interchangeable. That's really saying a lot, that's difficult for linemen, but it's also very difficult for wide receivers because the inside receiver positions is different from the outside, but they want interchangeability.
Yeah.
And again, what that does is also push pressure on the defense.
Yeah, it does. It keeps them guessing. So we'll see how it goes. But I think we've definitely upgraded in both areas, the line and the receiver room. So I think we've done well. Running back too. Cook's a standout. So we're going to see how he does. Okay, moving on to defense now. Defensive end, they're saying that the defense is pretty much a work in progress, and they're doing a lot of the same thing here. They're mixing around and letting players do different things, especially at cornerback, I know. But for now, what I kind of see is Zeke Campbell. He's a senior from Marietta, Georgia, transferred in from Coastal Carolina. He's a big guy. And then his backup is Wilnerson Telemake. I think that's how you said. He's a freshman from Miami, Florida. They're really high on him, and that's pretty good if you can make the rotation as a freshman on the line. That says a lot that he's physically ready. Defensive tackle Corey McIntyre. He's a senior from Port St. Lucie, Florida. He's been here for a while and has played, as a backup and done a good job. And now he's getting his turn, and I think he'll do well there. His backup is a freshman, Taylor Brown from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. I don't know a lot about him. That just seems to be who they plugged in there. We may be a little thinner on defensive line as far as depth. May not have quite the numbers they'd like to, but we'll have to see. Hopefully, we won't get banged up too bad, and we can get through it. As far as nose tackle, Nate Gabriel, a junior from Auburndale, Florida, and Jalen Thomas, transferred in from a Mississippi junior college, is from Memphis, Tennessee, and they've got them plugged in there. Now, at linebacker, there's a lot of new faces across this defense. Period. At Bandit currently is a guy named Harper Holloman. He's a junior from Atlanta, and he transferred from Western Kentucky. And they're keeping everything so quiet. I just don't know a whole lot about him. I mean, there's a lot of these guys I just don't know about. Then his backup right now is Toby Hostrip, a freshman from Houston, Texas. He's an Oregon transfer, and they are high on him. And I look for him to get some playing time, as well this year. But right now they're giving the edge to the Western transfer. So we'll see how that one plays out. At linebacker, Mike linebacker, got a guy. This guy seems like he's going to be a fan favorite. Tyler Stalsky. He's a senior from Portage, Michigan. He transferred from Florida Atlantic, and he is rough as a cob. He'll knock your head off. So we're going to see, and I think he likes to talk. So we're going to see how he plays out. But they've got him penciled in there. His backup is currently, he's not practicing this spring. Ashton Woods, sophomore from Marietta, Georgia. He's a transfer from North Carolina. He had surgery after spring practice, and he's after the season, and he's not played in spring practice. So we're going to have to see how he plays out. And he started some last year. So they could flip and flop there. I don't know. And what they call the off-ball linebacker, Malachi Hood, a junior from Joliet, Illinois. He's a transfer from University of Illinois. He's a good player. And I think he's going to do well. They talked this week that these linebackers are very athletic, so we're gonna see. His backup is Ben Cutter. He's been here for a long time, dating back to Neil Brown. He's a senior from Denver, North Carolina, down there on Lake Norman. I like him. He's my favorite guy on defense. I'd love to see him be able to get a start, but I know they've got a lot of talent there. But I think he's kind of become a little bit of a leader on defense, so he's going to play. But I just don't know really if he's quite as good as the guy from Illinois. That guy from Illinois is pretty good, so we're gonna see how that plays out. But I like Cutter. I'm glad he stuck around, didn't transfer out or anything. Now the secondary is it's definitely work in progress. There's a lot of new faces on here. Cornerback one is Jair Rollison, a sophomore from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, transferred in from Kent State. They're high on him, and I think he's rated really high. And we'll see. We're going to see how he plays out. But as I said, this is really a tight race, and all these corners. Shams Diagne, a senior from Riverdale, Georgia, transferred in from Georgia State, is hot on his heels. I mean, those guys are flipping and flopping every day, so we're going to see how that plays out. Cornerback two is Nick Taylor, a junior from Gainesville, Georgia. He played quite a bit last year, so he's got some experience. And his backup is Keyshawn Robinson, a junior from Shenandoah Junction, West Virginia. And I don't know a whole lot about him, but I know he was a good player in high school, but we'll see how it plays out. Now, at high safety, we've got Matt Sieg, a freshman from McDonald, Pennsylvania. And they said he's really doing well. He's got a football IQ that's top of the line, and has been doing well. And I think he's going to end up being a multiple player. He's going to play some on offense, might see some return game, some slot receiver, things like that. But right now, I think they're pretty much working with him on defense. But he's the starter now at the high safety. Behind him is Cameron Reddick. He's a junior from Missouri City, Texas, transferred in from Stephen F. Austin. And I know nothing about him. And we're just going to have to see. One thing on offense I wanted to go back and talk about. Let's see here. One thing I didn't talk about Kevin Brown at that right tackle. I mentioned him, but I didn't talk about him. He's highly touted as well on offense at right tackle. He's a true freshman, but he's kind of like the couple linemen we've had, Milam and so forth the past couple years. He's way ahead of his game, and they're not opposed to starting him. But then he's got that Karsten Cassidy from UConn, who's right on his heels. So that's an even matchup. But I don't know. From what I understand, they're paying Brown quite a bit in NIL money, and if you're going to pay that money, you're going to want to play him. So we're going to see how that plays out there. But getting back on the defensive side, they have a position called the box, which is kind of a hybrid linebacker defensive back. And in that spot is Kamari Wilson, a senior from Bradenton, Florida, and he transferred in from Memphis, University of Memphis. I've heard good things about him. We'll just have to see. And Damari Williams is a sophomore from Sylvan, North Carolina, and he's right on his back for playing time. So we'll see how that plays out. And then at nickelback, you got Jameer Latimer from Tyrone, Georgia. That's the running back's brother. He's a transfer from Wisconsin. And I think now he's another one I think is lined up. He's got that position kind of locked up, I believe. Behind him is Jacob Bradford, a freshman from Baton Rouge, transferred from LSU. But I think he's going to get some time, but I think he's got some work to do as well. On special, you want any comments on defense first?
I'm just going to say, Mark, that one of the things that struck me, and I think it applies to offense too, but I remember Rich Rod talking about it in terms of defense. He said, look, the goal here is to win, obviously. And so he's been downplaying first, second, string, backup. In other words, both you guys listened to his press conferences. There were 2 in the last couple of days. And he said, hey, if you can help us win, you're going to play. So don't focus so much on whether you're the starter or the backup. Are you in the playing group? And I think that's a really good way to approach it, particularly with this group.
Well, I think if you look back at WVU over the years, the teams that have been successful, they've been good. Their backups have been almost as good as the starters on most of those teams, and I think that's what he's trying to develop here. And I think there's a lot of guys that are going to get playing time because I think he's got quite a bit of talent. I think he's just got to figure out who's going to be best at which spot. So, okay, we're moving on to special teams now. Again, this is a tight race here, but currently they're giving the place kicking edge to Jack Cassidy. He's a senior from Northern Ireland, transfer from Western Kentucky. He's got experience, of course. And then his backup is Peter Natar. He's a freshman from Wexford, Pennsylvania. He transferred from Alabama. And he's got several years ahead of him if he sticks it out, and doesn't hit the portal. I think he's going to get some playing time as well. Now, on kickoffs is a holdover from last year, Nate Flower. He's a junior from Fairmont, West Virginia. He ended up taking the kickoffs over for Ethan Head about halfway through the season and was a lot better at getting the ball into the end zone than Head was, I think. So he's back. And hopefully we'll be okay there. Now the punter and then the holder for extra points and field goals. We had a little shakeup here. They originally signed a punter from Australia, and then they brought in another one from Brian Hansen's a senior from Colleyville, Texas, who transferred from Colorado State. He was the highest rated punter in the portal. And as soon as they signed him, the kid from Australia transferred to Arizona. So right now they don't show any backup there. I'm sure there'll be somebody that'll walk on, or they'll find somebody and there's a backup. But I think we're in pretty good shape there. And then long snapper, returning player McGuire Moss, a senior from Batavia, Illinois. His backup is Caden Seller, a sophomore from Hilliard, Ohio. McGuire's played last year, and he's good. He's just, we seem to every other year, we seem to have a guy that's good for a couple of years there. Most of them end up getting a shot in the NFL. So I think we're doing pretty good there. Now, kickoff return is kind of up in the air. They've got DJ Epps. He's the wide receiver. Right now is the only one listed. But, I've heard Sig's name mentioned, Keon Hutchins in there. We're just going to have to see. They've got some options. Punt return, they have no one listed there. And I've heard Sig mentioned for that as well. as a possibility, but they don't have him down. And of course, for a gadget player, they're talking about Sieg. He's a defensive back as a starter, but he can also do some slot receiver return game. And Rodriguez has said he wants to give him a couple of days of practice where he gets exposed to the offense some before they stop here in the next week or so. So he can just kind of get a feel for it. But right now, because the defense is complicated, and he came in early. They want him to get the defensive playbook down. And like I said, this is a total rebuild again this year. I think winning is going to depend on the same thing. It's a new system. It's going to be how everybody adjusts, and the team chemistry as far as how they get along as a team and gel. We do have some positives. We've got 7 home games, 4 away games, and 1 neutral site game. Now the 4 away games, they're more difficult, but 7 home games, we ought to win some of those now. A neutral site game, I think, is going to be the telltale for how the season goes. It's kind of like that Maryland game was for years. If we win that one, we usually go on and get a bowl game. And there were some exceptions, but for the most part, that's how the season kind of went. And I think playing Virginia in Charlotte's going to be a big test. But I think if we can win that game, I think it's going to give us a big boost. They're well coached. Virginia's well coached. They lost their quarterback and their top running back, but they hit the portal and they brought in a couple of quarterbacks. And one of them's from Pitt, was a backup at Pitt. And then they brought in, I think the other one was from Missouri. And then they brought in another transfer running back. So I think they're going to be good again. But we'll have to see how it goes. Like I said, overall depth on the team is a lot better. We're bigger, faster, more athletic. I think that's what they've been shooting for. And I think it's all it's a waiting game on everything. There's so many unknowns with this team. You're with all the new players that have came in, and 0 stars on defense and things like that. And I'm a realist kind of. I look at things in a realistic way, and I'm not a rah-rah kind of guy. But I'm going to say 6-6 in a minor bowl game. But I'm hoping that we get 8 wins. I think with that 7 home game thing, there's a possibility we could beat 6 wins. But I just right now with all the unknowns, I'm going to say 6-6 and just see where we go from there.
Yeah, that Virginia game you brought up, and we've talked about this, Mark, when Dave Gorby was on the show a couple of weeks ago. That's a really big game. And as you mentioned, 2 things that were going on. They had a great season, Virginia did, last year, won the ACC. But Chandler Morris, who's 25 years old, petitioned for a 7th year of eligibility. And the NCAA denied that. Then he sued. It went to a Virginia circuit court judge, which you would think would give Morris the edge. But the circuit court judge last week ruled against him, which effectively ends his college career. But, Eli Holstein, that tremendous comeback in Pitt a couple of years ago was engineered by him. He's a good quarterback. He knows West Virginia. The bottom line is, though, with the momentum I think we're going to get from those first 2 games, that Virginia game is absolutely critical. We come out of that with a win. The tougher part of the Big 12 schedule is later, and it gives us a chance to go beyond 6.
Yeah. Well, we've played in those neutral site games before. I've been to a few of them, and Charlotte is very, very good to West Virginia. West Virginia is very good to Charlotte. We always take 40 to 50,000 fans down there for games. UVA does not travel well, and we'll dominate in the crowd scene down there. And I think, if we can get 50,000 there, I think, or 60. I think we had 60 for Tennessee. If we get that much, I think we can have an advantage there with the crowd. I will say though, UVA has had our number. We haven't beaten them since I was in college back in like 19. I think it was like 80, 82 or 83, 82 maybe. It was maybe it's 81, but I know that's the last time we've beaten them. And I'd like to see us beat them. I'm not a fan of Virginia, so I'd like to see us beat those guys. Uh, anyways, but that's kind of my take on how things look, and we'll see how it all plays out. I'm sorry I don't have a lot more finite information. They're just not releasing enough right now for us to know, and I think it's just too early to tell. To be honest with you, we still have 12 guys that aren't even on campus yet that they're going to be playing into this as well. So.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, Mark, I know one thing you notice as a West Virginia fan, and I don't mean this in any condescending way, but not a lot of familiar names. Uh, people we had last year, and I think maybe that's a good thing. And you hate to have to replace everybody, but I mean, let's face it, a lot of those guys that played last year, I don't know if they were quite ready to be playing at that level or not, and it showed a lot of times. So I know we're rebuilding, but at least he's had time this year to really evaluate, and he's not trying to throw everything together in a week, and he's got time to evaluate it. He's going to have plenty of time to get the systems in. So I feel more confident in him this year, even though I know we're replacing everybody, especially on defense. Still feel confident in what they got going on, and really, I mean, it's like we talked about in basketball. This is kind of the new way things are. You're going to lose people, you're going to pick up people every year, and it's going to be a different looking roster every year. So, yep. Yeah. So, it's just going to be what we have to get used to for now. So, yeah, looking forward to it. And yeah, you had plenty great information, Mark.
Yeah.
Don't say yourself short.
One thing I thought you're talking about players that had left and everything. We had that linebacker that transferred from Southern Illinois, was a FCS All American. He did pretty well last year. I think he was better on the run than the pass. But he left, and I thought, man, I thought he would stick around because I think he had potential to do well. But then they brought that guy in from Illinois, and I saw that guy play on
Yeah.
TV once, and he's pretty tough now.
Yeah.
So I think we've upgraded there a little bit. Yeah, that's why
It-
Cutter. I love Cutter. I think he's a great kid, and I think he's a great for the program. But he's just a little undersized and a little slow, and I think they brought in some guys that are. But he does have experience. But I think that they brought in some guys that are going to elevate the entire linebacker room, so to speak.
Yeah. And I was thinking what you said, Greg, about last year versus this year. And we know, Rich Rod had to do what he had to do last year because he came in late. But he said something that I wrote down as soon as he said it. I think it was during the April 6th press conference. He said, and I'm going to look at it, I wrote it down, no glaring weaknesses. And I just about choked on my cigar when he said that because
yeah.
that's not Rich Rod. But he also said something else that's important too, and that is he wants to see the intensity in practices be equivalent to the intensity on game days, and that he's viewing, and we said this a couple of weeks ago, he's viewing this April 18th. Really, it's a game. It's a spring game as equivalent of being the first game of the season. He wants to see these guys really perform.
Yeah.
And so that takes some real confidence, I think, from a coach to the head coach, particularly one with so much experience like him, to be able to say that. But no glaring weaknesses. That's a hill to climb.
Yeah.
That's really, to me, was really good news.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you look at last year, I mean, we're not football experts by any means, but we can see the glaring weaknesses ourselves, and so that's encouraging that, he's not seeing any. That's great. And, again, I think it all comes down to just him having time. He's had time to evaluate. The coaches have had time to evaluate. get together with their needs, what we need, what type of player he wants, and he's been able to do that a lot better this year than he could last year. So I'm sure he does feel a lot better about the situation this year. And like Mark said, the schedule, is favorable, I think, and it could be a special year. You never know. But I'm like Mark. I think if we can win, between 6 and 8 games, I think it'll be success.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Darrin's been watching the Marshall WVU game. I've been sneaking at it too, and West Virginia is up 5-2 in the third, bottom of the third, and just got a hit. And God bless him, Honor Huff already has 2 home runs. Just did a pivot and got 2 home runs. No, but seriously, 5-2, bottom of the third over Marshall, and we've got a guy on base with 2 outs. So good news.
Awesome. Mark, as always, buddy, we appreciate all your insight, man. Great to hear from you, and great information.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I'm here every week. I'm just kind of behind the scenes, so
Right.
it's
Right.
it's good to be live though for once in a while. It kind of keeps me out there. People know I'm not staying home sitting on the couch.
Hey,
So
Talk a little bit more about basketball. You and I talked a bit
okay.
about that. And Darrin, if you would put up the graphic, we can talk more about this roster development process that's anything just opened. And we know that we lost DJ Thomas. But here's a graphic of where we stood this morning at about 11 o'clock. This the source for the information. And the guys do a great job of covering this. The beat writers, beat guys with WV Sports, with our good friend Keenan Cummings, and 24/7 Sports. And obviously on that first line, basically the starting lineup was a 1-year deal, and so they're gone. And now we have a couple guys in the portal. Thomas, we know, who played almost 600 minutes. He's going to be a get. Be interesting to see. He's from Austin. It'd be interesting to see if he lands at Texas when everything's said and done. As I said, Forsyth was a 4-star. Didn't play much, only 19 minutes all year long. But we got a good set of returning players. Amir Jenkins was a really good backup for Huff. He played a lot of minutes. Yugasuk, it's interesting. He was one of the guys, I don't know what you think about this. And this is not a negative comment, but when Thomas came on the floor, I knew he was there. But I didn't for a guy who played almost 300 minutes. He's not a guy that I noticed a lot. Did you guys notice him a lot?
No.
No, I don't think he lived up to. He played better at South Carolina before he transferred here. His shooting was a lot better on 3-point, I know for sure, than it was at WVU. His minutes just kind of dwindled. I think he played some of those non-conference games, but once he kind of got his rotation going, he kind of stuck with that, and he didn't get a lot of playing time.
Yeah, I've seen early line roster projections. He being a starter. Now let's see what happens with the portal. But the signees.
Yeah, it's early. Yeah.
Oh boy, this Miles Sadler. What we'll do is, as we get into the summer, we'll put up some video for people who haven't seen him. He was in a couple of games, national TV games, high school games last week. This guy is the real deal. He reminds you a lot of Huff. There's some argument on Facebook who's the better shooter, but this guy's a distributor. He's all over the place. He's a great leader. Not big, only 5'11". And then he got a partner there, Diom, who's also from Arizona, who's 6'10". So he's going to be a big. And, I haven't read a lot about Witty. He's a three star. I don't know if you guys have heard much from him, but again, for early roster projections, those three guys are penciled in as starters. We'll just have to see, and you can see there under signees that West Virginia basketball, even at this point, well, the high school recruiting is over, but WVU ranked 28th in the country as ranked by On3, sixth in the Big 12, which shows you how strong the Big 12 is behind Arizona, Houston, and Kansas. But that's a damn good rating, 28th in the country. And I'm going to two things I'll say about the list of the portal gets. This Mohamed Silla from Georgia Tech, terrible team, last in the ACC, just awful. But he put up pretty much double figures in both points and rebounds. I hope we can get him. The rumors are we are going to get him. And I think with Dion and Silla in the center position, that's a hell of a strength if we can do it. And the last thing I would bring up is, and you guys may have seen him play, I did not. The Blake Barkley is a Morgantown kid, played at University High early, then transferred to basketball playing academies. He's in the portal from East Tennessee State. He's a forward again, which would give us more length. Could be, replacement for DJ Jenkins, 6'8". He's got 2 years of eligibility left, and he averaged a little over 11 points. Do you guys remember him when he was in high school in West Virginia?
I do. Yes.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, good player. Um, I'm sure he's changed a lot since then. He's obviously gotten bigger. I don't remember him being 6'8", but yeah, he's gotten bigger. And when he played in high school, being that size, he was pretty dominant. You know what I mean? He could take over a game. He was young, but a decent player. And it's been couple 3 years uh, since watching him play. So not sure how his game has come around. Obviously, it's better. We'll just have to wait and see on him. He was, I think, a good coming out of high school. Where you come out of the academy, he was sought after quite heavily, and ended up down there. And you don't know what transpires to get people to different places, but he's a pretty solid player. And I think the basketball IQ thing is one of the things that makes him attractive. He understands the game. Yeah, yeah, knows how to play the game. So
Well,
that's a good thing.
he went to Northwestern
Yeah,
for 1 year and then transferred to ETSU. If
yep,
not him, I'm not saying it's a pick 'em, but then you got Brent Byers, who played on that great Miami of Ohio team. He was a forward. I remember seeing him play. Didn't see East Tennessee play this year. Byers is 6'8", identical, 11.3 points per game, identical to Barkley, and he also has 2 years left.
yeah.
So those are just a few of the guys that West Virginia is reputedly after, and I don't think there's any question the star of the show is Silla.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you follow it at all, you can see Hodge has the ability to bring in some of these name players, and I mean he's scored some big hits already, and again, just listen to the players talk about him after the CBC tournament was over, makes you pretty confident in what he's going to be capable of, and he's signed some pretty nice players, and again, it's a changing world of college athletics, and him being able to adapt and adjust and make the best of it looks like looks good right now. And I have all the confidence in the world in him and Coach Rod. I just think we're in good hands and we're headed in the right direction.
Well, you add to
Um,
that the baseball coach, you add to
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
rifle coach,
women's
the women's
basketball.
basketball
that's
coach.
right.
Oh
Yeah,
my God, what a great array of coaches!
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we're in
I was
good
going to
shape.
say too on the basketball recruiting thing. Didn't the kid from Georgia Tech go to the same high school as Miles?
I don't know.
I
Well,
was
either.
thinking he did. I know the coach recruiting him is the assistant guy, and I forget his name now, but he's the one that recruited Miles and the other kid from his school, and they're also trying to get a junior at that high school to reclassify and come to West Virginia early if they can do that. So we'll see how, and he's highly recruited as well. So we'll see how that goes. One other thing I wanted to add too, that I heard also on another one of the outlets that there's a guard they were looking at from Stephen F. Austin, who originally from Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I just heard that late last night, so I don't know where he stands or anything, but I know there's a kid from Fairmont too at Robert Morris that's in the portal, and but I haven't heard anything about him other than just people in the state talking that they would like to see him get an in-state kid, but I don't know. I don't know how good he is or anything.
Yeah, and that list that I put up is just a partial list, and I'm sure that the list is even longer than what's being reported. So the thing that I would say about I just reinforce what Greg would say, that you got to have confidence in Hodge,
Yeah,
and we all do, and really the roster. I think he's looking at a 15-person roster. And so we've got slots, 4 or 5 slots, assuming no other players leave. I think that's a fair bet. And so it's going to be a matter of the roster. And I saw that Coach Kellogg just signed his first player, a pit transfer, which
yeah,
redshirted last year, was on Team Canada 6'2". Obviously, that game against Kentucky is such that we need some length
Yep.
in the forecourt, particularly. And it's sad. One of my favorite players, Jordan Thomas, has entered the portal, and so she's not going to be playing for the Mountaineers next year. We presume if she gets picked up, she will be picked up. But she entered the portal, I think, yesterday. So, but you're right. All good coaches. All good
Yep.
coaches.
Yep. Yep. Good time. Good time to be a Mountaineer
That's
fan.
right.
And
Yeah.
Frank, you want to go ahead and we got some news for next week.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead before we sign off, get that in, make
Yep.
sure everybody
Let's
knows
do.
it.
That's right. If you could throw that up, and thank you, Darrin. You've got it right there.
Yep.
As we announced it last week, and again, we really appreciate Anthony Colasante and Jerry Lorenz and Doug Moore, Jerry and Doug at Kegler's, and obviously Anthony Colasantes, who owns Colasantes Ristorante and Pub. We're going to be at Colasantes on Friday night. We're going to be at Kegler's on Saturday. There will be no show on Wednesday because we're going to have our hands full. And so, unfortunately, Mark can't join us. He'll be visiting relatives down in Florida. But it's going to be, please come and join us in person. And if you can't join us in person, just like this show tonight, will be simulcast on both the New River Network and also the Voice of College Football. Plenty of options on both. And we plan to go for 2 hours in both locations, starting at about 4:30. Excuse me, 6:30. I'm sorry, on Friday night, and starting at 4:30 on Saturday after the spring to-dos at the stadium on Saturday. So look forward to seeing everybody. Darrin will be there. Greg will be there. I'll be there. Be a lot of fun. And we're talking with players about being there. And we'll hopefully do a lot of interviews, Greg.
Yep, yep, should be a good time. Usually it is, and we'll see how it goes. But looking forward to that as always. We always have fun up there, and it's just like you said. If you can't attend, you can watch. Just like if you're not an athlete, be an athletic supporter. So either way you want to look at it. But anyway, uh, that's an old joke back from one of the old movies
Yes.
back in the day. So the principal said that on the intercom. So anyway, my feeble attempt at being funny. I'll skip over that
That's all
now.
right.
Yeah, looking forward to
No,
Morgantown. Always have fun. Always have fun.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And we also want to put up again to remind folks of the golf fundraiser
Yep.
for Fulton Walker. Information at the bottom of the graphic there that you can, even if you don't play golf, you can contribute. This goes to high school kids and just great. Robert Soul and others. Mark is the one who put us in contact with Robert, is going to be with us at Kegler's, at least virtually with us at Kegler's. Not sure he can make it down, but we'll have a chance for him to, we'll hear it from the horse's mouth. But Fulton Walker just does a great job, and did a great job as a college player, all around player, pro player. And by the way, guys, I didn't tell you this, but Mark signed up Garnett Edwards for a future show, and we're excited about that. If anybody remembers that name, and I bet you a bunch of people do, this guy was speed on top of speed. It would have been interesting to have a foot race between Fulton Walker in his day and Garnett Edwards, but Greg Garnett is going to be with us on Friday night at Colasantes. So
Awesome.
we look
Awesome.
forward to that.
Absolutely. That'll be
Very
fun.
good.
Yep. Yep. Looking forward to that. I
Yep.
hope everybody will tune in and check us out up in Morgantown. And again, we'll be up there Friday and Saturday. Friday at Colasantes, Saturday at Kegler's, and we'll be catching the players coming in and out, getting interviews. I know a lot of people will want to hear that. We had a great time the last time we were up there, and I know it'll be a good time again, as always. Well, thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you watching the show here on the New River Network and the voice of college football, the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now. For Frank and Mark, I'm Greg. We appreciate everybody, Darrin, behind the scenes, for tuning in, and we appreciate all the work that Mark and Darrin do to keep our show going. So thank you guys. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next week for Morgantown, Friday and Saturday. Good night, everybody.